Have you ever found yourself fading into the background, wondering if anyone truly sees you? The unloved woman is not just a story of invisibility. It's a journey toward rediscovering the worth that has always existed within. There comes a point in many women's lives when they pause and quietly ask themselves, "Am I invisible?" It's a question born not from vanity, but from a deeper ache, the kind that settles in after years of feeling overlooked, unheard, or undervalued. You may have experienced this in a crowded room, surrounded by familiar faces, yet still felt like a shadow passing unnoticed. Or perhaps you've poured your heart, time, and energy into relationships, friendships, or work, only to be met with silence, indifference, or rejection. This sensation carries a distinct weight, one that lingers quietly but persistently. It's the heaviness of being unappreciated, unseen, and unloved. The ache grows not because you crave constant attention, but because all humans desire acknowledgement, a sense that they matter and belong. When that acknowledgement is absent, even fleeting moments of loneliness can evolve into something more profound, leaving you to wonder if your presence truly makes a difference in the lives of those around you. Feeling unloved is one of the most profoundly isolating experiences a person can encounter. It is as though you are standing amidst a bustling, crowded space, surrounded by the chatter and presence of countless people, yet you feel entirely invisible. Despite the proximity of others, there is an undeniable sense of disconnection, as if an impenetrable barrier exists between you and the world around you. No matter how much you wish to be acknowledged, it feels as though your existence goes unnoticed, your voice unheard, and your presence disregarded. This sensation often stems from deep, unmet emotional needs, the yearning for connection, validation, and acknowledgement that, when unfulfilled, leaves an aching void inside. The absence of reciprocated care or understanding can accumulate over time, manifesting in an overwhelming sense of emptiness. It is a hollow ache, one that defies easy articulation. Words fall short of capturing the weight of such loneliness, and even attempts to describe it can feel inadequate, further reinforcing the isolation. In moments like these, you may begin to question the very essence of your worth. You reflect on your actions, your words, and the energy you have poured into relationships, and wonder if perhaps there is something fundamentally lacking within you. The questions surface relentlessly. Am I deserving of love? Am I worthy of attention, care, or belonging? These doubts, though subtle at first, grow louder in the absence of affirmation from the outside world. The human desire to be seen and valued is intrinsic and universal. We seek out gestures of affection, moments of recognition, and the warmth that comes from genuine human connection. When these essential experiences are missing, the world can feel cold and indifferent. What might begin as a passing thought can spiral into a persistent narrative, one that casts shadows over your sense of self and colors the way you interpret the actions of those around you. What makes this experience particularly painful is its paradoxical nature. On the surface, you may appear fully integrated into your surroundings, attending social gatherings, engaging in conversation, and fulfilling your responsibilities. Yet beneath this exterior, a profound sense of separation lingers, hidden from view. Even in moments of laughter or shared company, there can exist a quiet, lingering emptiness. This internal conflict can give rise to a pattern of self-doubt and hyper-awareness. You might begin to overanalyze interactions, searching for hidden meanings or indications that others value you less than you desire. A missed call, a forgotten invitation, or even a neutral response may feel amplified, reinforcing the belief that you are not as important or cherished as you hope to be. Feeling unloved can cast doubt on your sense of worth, but it doesn't diminish who you are at your core. Recognizing this distinction can be challenging, especially in moments of vulnerability. The emotional pain that accompanies these experiences is often less about an inherent flaw within oneself and more reflective of external circumstances, misunderstandings, emotional barriers in others, or the complexities of human relationships. Recognizing this truth requires conscious effort and self-compassion. The path to overcoming the weight of feeling unloved lies not in seeking constant validation from others, but in fostering a deeper sense of love and acceptance within yourself. True connection begins internally, through the practice of nurturing your own worth and acknowledging your inherent value. In doing so, the invisible walls of isolation begin to crumble. The space around you feels less intimidating, and the silent ache that once defined your experience gradually gives way to moments of peace, strength, and the quiet realization that you are, and always have been, deserving of love. Let's take a moment to reflect on an essential truth. Feeling unloved does not mean you are unlovable. These two experiences are often mistaken for one another, but they stem from entirely different places. Feeling unloved is a temporary state shaped by circumstances, miscommunication, or unmet emotional needs. Being unlovable, on the other hand, implies a fixed condition of worthlessness, which is rarely grounded in reality. It's important to recognize that the absence of love or acknowledgement from others does not define your value. Sometimes the love we crave may be withheld not because we are undeserving, but because others are limited in their capacity to give. Their actions or lack thereof reflect their own struggles, not your worth. By embracing this distinction, you begin to separate fleeting emotions from your deeper sense of self. You are not defined by the love you receive, but by the love you choose to cultivate within. Even in moments of isolation, your worth remains intact, waiting to be rediscovered. The perception of being unloved often takes root early in life, sometimes as far back as childhood. These formative years, meant to be filled with nurturing and encouragement, can sometimes introduce experiences that leave lasting imprints on the heart and mind. Perhaps as a child, you eagerly sought approval. A simple nod of recognition, a word of praise, or a comforting hug, only to find yourself met with criticism, dismissal, or cold indifference. Moments that should have affirmed your worth may have instead created confusion, leading to feelings of inadequacy and longing. Children, sensitive to their surroundings, seek love and validation from caregivers. When met with criticism or distance, they may internalize feelings of inadequacy, shaping how they view themselves into adulthood. When these key figures are emotionally distant, unavailable, or overly critical, the absence of affection begins to shape how a child views themselves. Each missed opportunity for warmth or connection reinforces the notion that love must be earned. That to be seen or appreciated, one must work harder, achieve more, or suppress their true feelings. This yearning for affection, when met with distance or rejection, often embeds itself deeply into the subconscious. The child may start to internalize the belief that they are not good enough, or that something within them is fundamentally flawed. Over time, this belief solidifies, transforming into an ever-present voice that whispers doubts about their worth. Even as the child grows into adolescence and adulthood, this voice lingers, becoming a quiet but persistent narrative that colors their self-perception and relationships. It is not uncommon for adults to look back on their childhood and recall moments that seemed insignificant at the time. Harsh words spoken in frustration, affection withheld during moments of vulnerability, or comparisons drawn to siblings or peers. These instances, though fleeting, accumulate and build the foundation for feelings of being unloved. What begins as an isolated experience can spiral into a pervasive mindset, one that extends beyond the family unit and influences how the individual interacts with friends, partners, and colleagues. As this belief system matures, it affects more than just interpersonal relationships. It seeps into decision-making, self-expression, and the way one navigates challenges. Individuals who carry this sense of unworthiness might hesitate to pursue their goals or avoid situations that require vulnerability. There is often an underlying fear of rejection, an expectation that their efforts will once again be met with disinterest or criticism. This self-protective behavior, while intended to shield from further pain, inadvertently reinforces the cycle of isolation. However, it is vital to acknowledge that these perceptions, though powerful, are not reflections of absolute truth. The absence of love or approval during childhood does not equate to being unlovable. It is a narrative shaped by circumstances beyond one's control, a story authored by the environment rather than an inherent deficiency within the individual. Recognizing this distinction marks the first step toward healing. By bringing these experiences into awareness, you can begin to dismantle the falsehoods that have taken root over the years. It is a process of gently challenging the inner critic and replacing those old narratives with affirmations of self-worth. Healing may also involve revisiting these childhood memories with compassion, acknowledging the pain felt, and offering the reassurance that was once missing. Surrounding yourself with supportive relationships, engaging in self-reflection, and allowing space for vulnerability can all aid in rewriting this narrative. Gradually, the internal voice that once whispered doubts can transform into one that champions resilience and self-acceptance. The journey to undo the perception of being unloved is neither simple nor linear. It requires patience and courage to confront the shadows of the past, but in this process lies the opportunity for profound growth, a chance to reclaim the sense of worth that has always resided within, waiting to be rediscovered. The echoes of feeling unloved do not dissipate with time. Instead, they subtly weave themselves into the fabric of adulthood, manifesting in relationships, friendships, and the way you perceive your own worth. The wounds of the past often linger quietly beneath the surface, influencing decisions, interactions, and emotional responses in ways that are not always immediately apparent. As adults, many find themselves engaging in patterns of behavior rooted in this lingering fear of rejection. Some may overextend themselves, constantly striving to prove their worth to others. They pour their energy into pleasing those around them, saying yes when they mean no, sacrificing personal boundaries, and taking on responsibilities far beyond their capacity. This relentless pursuit of validation stems from the hope that eventually someone will recognize their efforts and affirm their value. However, such behavior often leads to burnout and resentment, reinforcing the very loneliness they are trying to escape. On the opposite end of the spectrum, others may choose to withdraw. To protect themselves from the potential pain of further rejection, they construct emotional walls, creating distance even in close relationships. By limiting vulnerability and suppressing their true feelings, they believe they are shielding their hearts from disappointment. Yet this defensive posture can lead to isolation, preventing meaningful connections and deepening the sense of being misunderstood or unseen. These opposing reactions, overextending and withdrawing, are two sides of the same coin, both driven by the underlying belief that love must either be earned or guarded against. The paradox is that these behaviors, intended to protect, often perpetuate the very isolation and emptiness they seek to avoid. Overextending oneself can lead to being taken for granted, while withdrawal can result in missed opportunities for genuine connection. Friendships, too, are not immune to these patterns. The individual may struggle with trust, hesitant to open up for fear of rejection or abandonment. Alternatively, they may become overly accommodating, hesitant to voice their needs or boundaries out of concern that doing so could jeopardize the relationship. The workplace can also reflect these deep-seated fears. A person may become a perfectionist, working tirelessly to avoid criticism, believing that their professional worth is tied directly to their performance. Conversely, they may shy away from leadership opportunities or collaboration, fearing exposure or judgment. The common thread running through these experiences is the internal narrative that suggests one's value is contingent upon external approval. This belief, deeply ingrained from childhood experiences, continues to shape how individuals interact with the world long into adulthood. Yet the awareness of these patterns marks the first step toward breaking free from them. By recognizing the ways in which the fear of being unloved influences behavior, one can begin to challenge these subconscious scripts. Cultivating self-compassion, practicing vulnerability, and gradually asserting personal boundaries can help rewrite the internal narrative. One of the most difficult aspects of feeling unloved is the misunderstanding and invalidation that often surrounds it. When you express this sense of emptiness or disconnection, it is not uncommon to be met with dismissive responses. Phrases like "just move on" or "you're overthinking it" are offered as quick solutions to something far more profound. These words, while perhaps well-intentioned, reveal a lack of understanding about the depth of the experience. Feeling unloved is not a matter of simple sadness or fleeting insecurity. It reflects a deep, unmet emotional need that cannot be dismissed or resolved by sheer willpower. At the core of every person lies the fundamental desire to be seen, heard, and valued. This longing transcends age, background, and circumstance. It is an essential part of the human experience, woven into the very fabric of who we are. When this need is ignored, overlooked, or consistently unmet, it leaves behind more than just disappointment. It creates an emotional wound that lingers, quietly affecting how we engage with the world and perceive ourselves. This internalization often reinforces the cycle of loneliness. Rather than seeking comfort or expressing vulnerability, you may convince yourself that the ache is insignificant or that addressing it would burden others. Yet, denying the existence of this need does not cause it to disappear. It only pushes the pain deeper, allowing it to manifest in subtler, more persistent ways. Over time, this can lead to patterns of self-doubt, perfectionism, or emotional withdrawal, all attempts to cope with the sense of being unseen and undervalued. It is essential to understand that feeling unloved is not a reflection of weakness, nor does it stem from being too sensitive or dramatic. This feeling is valid and worthy of attention. Like any wound, it requires care and intentional healing. The process begins with recognizing the legitimacy of your emotions and granting yourself the compassion that others may fail to provide. Acknowledging this pain is not about placing blame or dwelling in past grievances. Rather, it is about creating space to honor your need for connection and belonging. It means learning to validate your experiences, even if those around you do not fully understand them. Healing often starts with the simple act of allowing yourself to feel, without judgment, without dismissal. In truth, the journey toward healing is not linear, nor is it one that can be rushed. Just as emotional wounds are created over time, they also require patience and gentle persistence to mend. The key lies in accepting that your worth is not diminished by the absence of external validation. You are not defined by the love you receive, but by the love you hold within yourself. By offering yourself grace and tending to the parts of you that feel unseen, you begin to reclaim the sense of value that may have felt lost. In doing so, you rewrite the narrative that once told you love was something to be earned or chased, instead of something that naturally exists within and around you. The experience of feeling unloved is not shaped solely by personal interactions or relationships. It is often magnified by the pressures and expectations imposed by society. We are often surrounded by images that portray love as grand and flawless. Highlight reels of romantic gestures and perfect families. When reality doesn't match, it can feel as though we're falling behind. Romantic comedies, advertisements, and even the carefully selected moments shared by friends can reinforce the notion that love must be extravagant, loud, and constantly affirmed through visible milestones. When your personal reality does not align with these glorified portrayals, it can trigger feelings of inadequacy and isolation. You may begin to question why your life lacks the spark and grandiosity that seems so common in the lives of others. This comparison, though subtle at first, can evolve into a persistent belief that you are falling short or missing out. Even genuine, quiet expressions of love may seem insignificant when measured against the standards projected by society. The truth, however, is that love is not a one-size-fits-all experience. It rarely mirrors the carefully edited snapshots we encounter daily. Love does not always manifest in grand declarations or public displays of affection. More often than not, it resides in the subtle, quiet moments, the way a friend listens attentively, the small gestures of kindness from a partner, or the steady presence of someone who stands by you during difficult times. These forms of love, though less conspicuous, are no less significant. Unfortunately, the quieter expressions of love can easily be overlooked, particularly when societal messages suggest that only dramatic, larger-than-life experiences are valid. This skewed perception may lead you to dismiss the love that already surrounds you, assuming it lacks depth or importance because it does not conform to popular ideals. You might unknowingly undervalue the relationships in your life, believing they pale in comparison to the glossy portrayals of love seen elsewhere. Breaking free from these societal expectations begins with recognizing that love is diverse and multifaceted. It cannot be confined to a single expression or defined by external validation. Love exists in both the grand and the ordinary, in moments of celebration and in quiet companionship. The absence of dramatic gestures does not signify the absence of love. It often signifies a deeper, more enduring connection that does not require constant affirmation to thrive. By shifting your focus from the external to the internal, you begin to appreciate the subtle expressions of love that permeate daily life. A simple text from a friend, a shared laugh, or a warm embrace can hold more meaning than the grandest of public displays. These moments, though fleeting, build the foundation for lasting relationships and remind you that love in its truest form is not performative. In recognizing this, you allow yourself to detach from the unrealistic expectations shaped by societal narratives. You begin to see love not as something to chase or prove, but as something to nurture and receive in its many forms. Love becomes less about how it appears to others and more about how it feels to you, genuine, grounding, and enough. Understanding the experience of feeling unloved requires acknowledging the subtle ways it can distort your perception of reality. This emotional weight can act as a lens, clouding your ability to recognize the affection and care that may already exist around you. Instead of focusing on those who genuinely appreciate and value you, your attention may gravitate toward the absence, the people who overlook you, the relationships that feel distant, or the love that seems perpetually out of reach. This distortion often happens quietly, creeping into your thoughts without conscious awareness. You might find yourself dismissing small acts of kindness or interpreting them as obligatory gestures rather than genuine expressions of affection. A friend's supportive words may be downplayed as politeness, and a loved one's consistent presence may feel more like a routine than a reflection of deep care. The warmth and connection you long for might already be present in your life, but the pain of feeling unloved can make it difficult to recognize. However, while this mechanism may offer temporary comfort, it carries long-term consequences. When left unchallenged, this distorted perception can reinforce isolation, creating a self-fulfilling cycle in which the love you crave feels perpetually unattainable. The more you dismiss acts of kindness, the more distant and disconnected you become, unintentionally pushing away the very relationships that could help heal the wound of feeling unloved. Breaking free from this cycle begins with a conscious effort to shift your perspective. It involves gently questioning the assumptions that arise when love and kindness come your way. When someone offers support, take a moment to ask yourself, could this gesture be genuine? Could their care be sincere, even if it doesn't arrive in the grand, dramatic form you may have envisioned? By practicing this self-reflection, you gradually retrain your mind to notice and accept the quieter, more subtle expressions of love that often go unnoticed. Equally important is learning to embrace vulnerability. Allowing yourself to believe in the authenticity of others' affection can feel risky, especially if past experiences have made you hesitant to trust. But vulnerability is the bridge that connects you to deeper relationships. It opens the door for richer, more meaningful connections, ones built not on grand declarations, but on the simple, everyday acts of kindness and presence. You might also find it helpful to express gratitude, even for the smallest gestures. Gratitude shifts your focus away from scarcity and toward abundance, highlighting the positive aspects of your relationships, rather than fixating on what feels lacking. Over time, this practice can transform your perception, fostering a sense of emotional security that is rooted in appreciation rather than doubt. Recognizing the love that already exists in your life does not mean ignoring pain or settling for less than you deserve. It means allowing yourself to see the full picture, to acknowledge both the absence and presence of love, while giving equal weight to each. By challenging the distorted belief that you are unloved, you open yourself to the possibility that love surrounds you, even in ways you may not have expected. The journey to overcoming this distortion is not about seeking perfection in relationships or constant validation from others. It is about cultivating awareness, practicing openness, and gently reminding yourself that love is often closer than it appears. In doing so, the world begins to feel a little less lonely, and the quiet acts of kindness that once seemed insignificant begin to shine with the warmth and reassurance that you are indeed valued and cared for. Another significant layer of feeling unloved lies in the comparison trap, a mental pattern that quietly amplifies loneliness and self-doubt. It's all too easy to observe the lives of others and wonder, why not me? Why am I the one left out? This internal questioning often arises during moments of vulnerability, when the gap between your emotional needs and reality feels most pronounced. The world around you can seem filled with people basking in love, affection, and connection, leaving you feeling isolated, as though you are on the outside looking in. But what we see from the outside is rarely the full story. The curated highlight reels presented on social media, the affectionate exchanges between couples at dinner, or the seemingly inseparable friendships you witness, all of these portrayals often mask the complexities and insecurities hidden beneath the surface. That friend whose relationship seems perfect may privately battle self-doubt or fear of abandonment. The coworker with the loving, supportive family may feel unseen in their professional life, yearning for recognition in ways that are invisible to others. The human tendency to compare is not inherently negative. It can inspire growth, reflection, and connection. However, when filtered through the lens of feeling unloved, comparison distorts reality, magnifying perceived deficiencies while minimizing the struggles others face. This distortion reinforces the false belief that love is abundant for everyone else, but scarce for you. The more this belief takes root, the harder it becomes to appreciate the unique ways love manifests in your own life. It's important to remember that no one is immune to feelings of being unloved. Everyone at some point wrestles with moments of doubt, invisibility, or longing for deeper connection. Recognizing this universal truth can be a powerful step toward breaking free from the comparison trap. Instead of focusing on what appears to be missing, shifting attention to the connections you do have, even if they seem small or imperfect, can begin to shift your perspective. Challenging the narrative of comparison also means embracing empathy, both for yourself and for others. When you remind yourself that the seemingly perfect lives of those around you are layered with unseen struggles, it fosters compassion. This empathy allows you to form more authentic connections, grounded not in the illusion of perfection, but in the shared vulnerability of being human. Feeling unloved can cast long shadows over decision-making. You may second-guess your abilities or question if you deserve happiness and success. Opportunities that once felt within reach may now seem distant, blocked by an inner voice that whispers doubts. The desire to avoid rejection or failure might lead you to settle for less, whether in friendships, romantic relationships, or professional aspirations. Alternatively, it may drive you to overcompensate, pushing yourself relentlessly in pursuit of validation that often feels fleeting. This feeling, while painful, can serve as a guide to deeper self-awareness and healing. Within the discomfort lies an invitation to examine the areas of your life where healing is needed. It shines a light on wounds that have been long ignored or suppressed, urging you to confront and address them with compassion. This process of reflection can uncover patterns of self-neglect or unhealthy relational dynamics, offering an opportunity for growth. Often, the sense of being unloved stems from unmet emotional needs, boundaries crossed, connections lost, or affection withheld. By recognizing where these fractures occurred, you can begin the journey toward establishing stronger, healthier boundaries. It becomes a process of learning where to say no, how to express your needs, and when to walk away from situations that perpetuate the feeling of being unseen or unappreciated. Moreover, this emotional pain can serve as a catalyst for self-discovery. It encourages you to turn inward, to seek love from within rather than relying solely on external sources. In doing so, you begin to cultivate self-compassion, replacing harsh self-criticism with affirmations of worth and resilience. This inner work fosters a deeper connection to yourself, building a foundation that is less dependent on the approval or affection of others. The realization that love does not always have to come from external validation is transformative. As you nurture love within yourself, you become more attuned to recognizing the subtle, quiet expressions of affection already present in your life. The love from a friend, the unwavering support of family, or even the comfort found in personal achievements and passions begins to take on new meaning. Acknowledging the power of feeling unloved does not mean surrendering to it. It means allowing the experience to reveal where growth is possible, where healing can begin, and where strength has always existed. In this way, what once felt like a weight holding you back becomes a force that propels you forward toward greater self-awareness, fulfillment, and the recognition that love, in all its forms, often begins with the relationship you cultivate with yourself. One of the most liberating and transformative realizations in life is understanding that love does not have to come from others to hold value. While the desire for external validation is deeply ingrained in human nature, the most enduring, unwavering form of love is the one you cultivate within yourself. This self-generated love has the power to provide stability, comfort, and confidence, even in the absence of recognition from the outside world. It is the quiet but steadfast voice that reassures you, saying, "I am enough," regardless of whether others affirm it. The beauty of this internal love is that it is not conditional. It does not waver based on fleeting opinions, social acceptance, or the ever-changing dynamics of relationships. It is a love rooted in the acknowledgement of your inherent worth, a love that allows you to nurture your own needs, set healthy boundaries, and embrace your imperfections without judgment. When this kind of love begins to take root, it becomes a sanctuary, enabling you to hold space for yourself in moments of doubt, fear, and loneliness. Self-love does not mean isolation or rejecting the need for connection with others. It means finding balance, welcoming the love and kindness that others offer, but not depending on it as the sole source of your worth. It's about recognizing that even if external affection fades, the love you have for yourself can sustain you. This shift in perspective allows you to experience relationships more freely, appreciating them for what they are, without the underlying fear that your value hinges on their permanence. However, understanding the power of self-love does not require dismissing the pain of feeling unloved. Acknowledging your hurt and allowing yourself to feel it deeply is part of the healing process. Suppressing or minimizing those feelings only reinforces the idea that your emotions are invalid. Instead, by offering yourself compassion and grace, you create space for healing to unfold naturally. You begin to realize that pain, while difficult, does not define you. True self-love is an active process, one that requires daily nurturing. It might appear in the form of speaking kindly to yourself, allowing rest without guilt, or pursuing passions that ignite joy. It manifests in quiet moments of self-reflection, in choosing to forgive yourself for past mistakes, and in recognizing your growth, no matter how small. These seemingly simple acts are powerful declarations that affirm your worth. Over time, this inner love reshapes the way you perceive the world around you. Instead of focusing on the love you lack, you begin to notice the subtle ways love already exists in your life. The warmth of the morning sun, the laughter shared with a friend, the sense of accomplishment after completing a task. These moments reflect love in its purest, most organic form. And as your awareness of these small yet profound expressions of love grows, so too does your sense of fulfillment. Ultimately, the journey to embracing self-love leads to a profound realization. You are not unloved. The absence of external validation does not equate to a void within you. The love you seek has always resided within you, waiting to be nurtured and embraced. When you recognize this truth, you unlock the freedom to walk forward not in search of love, but as someone already full of it. When you choose to see yourself through a lens of compassion and acceptance, you unlock the capacity to love others more deeply, not from a place of need, but from a place of abundance. This realization marks the beginning of a new chapter, one in which you no longer seek love as something external to chase, but as something you inherently possess and carry with you wherever you go.